School-aged children 4 to 18 years old in urban environments are increasingly exposed to environmental risks for prolonged periods each day. Described as environmental health triggers, these risks are those elements within the environment that may lead to health problems or environmentally attributable diseases. Many of these environmental factors are in turn associated with development of cognitive skills as well as learning and developmental disabilities. Clean, quiet, safe, comfortable and healthy surroundings are therefore important components of successful teaching and learning as well as development of the total child.
How do environmental factors affect learning? It can do this by affecting your brain development. In fact, it can affect your ability to learn. It can do this by affecting your health. If your health is affected, if you're chronically ill, meaning you're sick all the time, this can affect your attendance in school and also your attention in school. Now, one big example is something like asthma, which we're all familiar with and we all pretty much take for granted, but it also is influenced a lot by your environment. If you're ill, and you're always going to hospital, always need to be attended to, then you'll lose attendance in school. Your attendance in school will fall. Additionally, one of the things that asthma does is that you cough a lot, especially at night. If you're coughing a lot and you're not sleeping well, what can happen is the following day at school, you're tired, you're not able to concentrate, you're not able to focus, you're just basically drowsy and all you want to do is sleep.
Research has shown that learning in schools may be influenced by indoor air quality, ventilation and thermal comfort, lighting, acoustics, building age and quality, school size and class size. High absenteeism in some areas of the USA has been associated with poor indoor air quality.
My name is Joy Crawford. I am a distinguished president of the Kiwanis Club of New Kingston. What we're here to do this morning is introduce to you a project on the environment.
The Kiwanis Club of New Kingston has placed a major emphasis on the learning environment of urban schools. Dubbed the Kiwanis Environmental Health and Learning Initiative, this project focuses on reducing factors in the school environment that may lead to learning and developmental disorders. Air quality, noise, toxic chemicals, sanitation, and food safety. Clean air has the correct balance of oxygen and other naturally occurring gases that will keep us alert and receptive to information. When our air becomes polluted, it contains higher levels of impurities which can be detrimental to our health. The air that envelops our cities is clogged with impurities. Air pollutants result from normal domestic activities as well as from industrial sources. Air contaminants are produced from external as well as internal sources. The location of the building is a major factor in determining the health of the environment. Schools that are located close to major road corridors, industrial and commercial centers, and city dumps will have greater contaminant loads. Oxides of carbon, sulfur, and nitrogen produced as a byproduct of combustion from homes, motor vehicles, and factories, volatile organic compounds such as vapors from paints, air fresheners, hair products, and art supplies, other gases such as hydrogen sulfide, which gives a rotten egg smell, and methane produced from the breakdown of organic matter in our garbage and drains, as well as particulates, are the common air contaminants. Particulate matter encompasses dust, pollen, microorganisms such as mold, viruses, and bacteria, and inorganic materials such as lead. We generally call most particulates dust, but it is important to know the types of particulates as they have different effects on our health and well-being. For example, airborne mold and pollen often trigger asthma and other respiratory ailments. Lead can become airborne from flaking lead paints or present in the soil and water.
So in Jamaica, there are areas that are notorious for having a high concentration of lead in the soil, and as a result, we have a lot of children that have manifestations of lead poisoning. Now, how does lead affect our children? Lead has been studied extensively worldwide. It's not only a problem in Jamaica. And how it does this is that it can affect the messengers in the brain that actually help with your learning. It affects the development of your brain. It can actually cause diffuse brain disease, and it also can cause anemia. And children that have anemia have been documented as having a lower IQ than children in the average population. It can also cause fits. Now, fits are something that Jamaicans are scared of. It's a frightening experience, and lead can contribute to this. Again, we can go back to the original thing of absenteeism. If you're having seizures, you're going to need some amount of medical attention, so you will be absent from school. If you have repeated seizures, eventually it may result in some amount of brain impairment, which can affect your attention in school, and additionally, it can affect your self-esteem. If you're different from your peers, this can cause you to be depressed, and it will also affect your ability to learn.
Our air indoors is also often polluted, and in some cases can be worse than the outdoor air. These impurities may come from external sources, building materials, furnishings, air conditioning systems, and worsen by poor building ventilation and air circulation. When contaminated air gets inside, if there isn't an adequate mechanism to remove the stale air and introduce fresh air, then persons will become ill breathing in the stale air. A common problem indoors is high carbon dioxide levels that causes headaches, sleepiness, and dizziness. Care should be taken when using laboratory chemicals, cleaners, pesticides, even personal care products such as perfumes and hairsprays, as well as deodorizers, to open windows and doors, and where possible, wear a mask. The amount of bodies in a room can quickly reduce the quality of the air indoors. Overcrowded classrooms with low ventilation levels can result in high carbon dioxide levels and other adverse indoor air conditions. These impurities must be evaluated through measurement so as to determine how best to treat them. Kiwanis has partnered with Environmental Solutions Limited to measure air quality and noise in select urban schools. The results will provide necessary background data that will help to guide the design of corrective measures. Our environment is critical to our well-being and our health, and yet we continue to disregard good practices that will ensure our safety. Our children, parents, teachers, and communities need to understand the risks and how they can help to reduce the effects. Every breath that we take is vital to our very existence, but if what we breathe in is not pure, then there will be a breakdown in our physical system. Children breathe in more air per unit body mass and are therefore at greater risk of becoming ill.
Well, the environment affects me when the breeze blows and all the dust rises, and we have to breathe in the environment. So when we breathe in, when we inhale the dust in the air, we inhale the dust, and it's very dangerous for the lungs.
I inhale the dust, it makes me get a cold, and it's very dangerous for the lungs, and I also have asthma.
My sister used to come to the school and she has pneumonia, and most of the times when she inhales the dust, she has asthma when she gets asthma attacks.
Well, the environment mostly affects me when the dust is blown by the breeze, and when I inhale it. When I inhale it, I start to cough and sneeze.
Most of the thing that environment that affects me is the dust, because I have like sinus and other illnesses that the dust can affect. And when I inhale it, my sinus and I get on me and I started to sneeze.
And I do have asthma, and sometimes I wheeze, and one day my mommy carried me to the hospital.
There's also the problem of burning of garbage by some of the community members, especially out on the main road where they burn their garbage and it affects the school.
Prolonged exposure to some of these problems can follow children into adult life.
I'd had this cough for some time, so I went to the doctor, and they did a chest X-ray, and they showed that there was interstitial hardening or something like that. So they sent me off to the pulmonologist, and we did CT scans, and we did lung biopsies and bronchoscopy and all kinds of things. And they diagnosed me as having idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis, which means that my lungs are hardening up. And that is, whatever hardens up doesn't unharden. So, and if it continues to do that, then after time, it means that the lungs can't carry out the function, so you won't be able to breathe. So it does, I can't remember the word, but it means that you're not going to outlive it if the disease keeps on doing its work. We do know that some of the causes are environmental. Like in mining towns, miners tend to have it. People work with chickens and so on tend to have it because whatever it is, clogs them up. And you find that sometimes the asbestos, although that one tends to lead towards lung cancer. In fact, I sort of thought that was what was causing my problem because I had worked for so long in a place where they had asbestos in the ceiling. Extremely important that we pay attention to our air quality and the environment, because the carbon, monoxide or whatever it is, that is one of the chief causes that they have found for people who have pulmonary fibrosis that with a known cause. And so, we need to ensure that our air quality is clean. And I know for Kingston, our air quality is getting worse and worse, and people insist on burning. Last night I was driving home and I passed through an area, and I went into a stiff asthma attack almost immediately because you couldn't breathe.
And there are often problems with sanitation. The garbage piles up faster than it can be removed. The stench and noise are sometimes unbearable and impacts on the health of the children and parents. We can institute programs at schools and in the community to reduce litter by composting organic waste and collecting plastic bottles for recycling. Noise can also be a major problem in the learning environment. High noise levels impact on the development of children and on their ability to concentrate. Here at St. George's Primary and Infant School, it's difficult to hear your own voice over the cacophony of sounds that's produced here.
The noise affects us, like when we're having outside classes and like around the front, and the vehicles are passing, the noise, and we can't hear what our teacher's saying, and children passing and screaming. Yeah. Sometimes it gets me angry. Yes, and like I feel like my eardrum going to burst.
When I'm doing tests and I'm upstairs and they're in the classrooms and they're making a lot of noise, I don't get to concentrate properly on my work, and then I lose focus, and that will make me get low grades. So that really stops my concentration.
Well, at St. George's, we really have a noise problem because of our situation here. It lends itself to noise. There's a hall, and we have 8 classes upstairs, and the classes are separated by chalkboards. So if school is in session, you can imagine each teacher teaching a class, maybe a language or math, and everybody talking at the same time, answering questions. It's really a problem. Well, the children tend to talk loudly. I know for one, they tend to talk loudly. What we do to correct the problem is that we have sometimes some classes are outside, especially the upstairs classes. We have 2 corridors, so some classes will go on one side, and especially the grade 6 will be on another side. So as to alleviate the problem of noise in the classroom.
Now, noise pollution. People might be wondering, how can noise affect learning? Now, noise pollution we see it all around us. We hear it in the loud music in the cars, you hear it from factories, and you hear it from even from the motor cars themselves, depending on the type of engine that is present. Now, noise can affect learning in two ways. One could be the fact that it can cause hearing impairment. Children sometimes, when they're not able to hear, they may not themselves be understanding fully what is happening to them, neither their parents. They tend to be a little bit more aggressive, and as a result, because they're not able to receive and process the information that is being given to them, as a result, they may be labeled as a rude child, according to how we speak in Jamaica, and this can affect their self-esteem and their ability to learn.
Changing the learning environment one classroom at a time, one school at a time, that must be our mantra. Adequate ventilation and clean air indoors, adequate lighting, adequate sanitation, removal of garbage, clean water, and an overall environment that is safe for our young ones to develop and reach their potential. We keep on hearing that our children are our future, and indeed they are. But we must ensure that improvements in the learning environment can be achieved by simple, low-cost solutions. Planting trees, shrubs, and grass to reduce dust and act as sound barriers. Our corporate social partners must come on board and assist with the other capital solutions required. The Kiwanis Environmental Health and Learning Initiative is doing its part to sensitize the youth and the public in general, thereby reducing the negative environmental factors and ensuring a clean environment for us all.